Lee Rich here is a technical solutions engineer here at Puppet Labs. And he's going to give a little demo of Puppet. This is a really good time to get your questions out. If there are things that are keeping you up at night, wondering and crying and thinking, this is a great time to ask those questions. Lee really knows his stuff. So thanks a lot, Lee.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of Puppet Enterprise and show you a demo at the same time. Before I start, I just wanted to give you a little information about me. I've been at Puppet for about 5 months now, based out of Boston, covering the Northeast and Canada. Before that, I used to work at Eucalyptus, Red Hat, and EMC. And I got my start being a Unix administrator, working on IRIX and Solaris. So that was a long time ago. And before coming to Puppet, I've had no former Puppet experience. So I'm hoping to be able to show you today that even without a lot of experience, you can start using Puppet and start seeing real benefits from it quickly. So to start off with, Puppet really helps you to improve agility, productivity, through defining and enforcing a desired state. This is important because unlike other configuration models, Puppet is declarative and not imperative or process-oriented. So basically you start off by defining an end state of what you want your systems to look like, and then you allow Puppet to enforce that end state. So instead of telling Puppet how to do something, you're basically telling it what you want done. So for example, if you were installing a package, one of the advantages of this is being able to reuse your code and modules and so forth across different platforms. So for example, if you were installing a package, if you were using Red Hat, you'd have to remember to use the yum command. On Ubuntu, it'd be apt-get. I think Novell uses yast, and then Windows, it's PowerShell or something else. Well, anyways, if you were using Puppet, you could basically just tell Puppet which package you want installed, and then you let Puppet figure out the commands needed to install that package. And that works whether you're on Linux, Unix, or Windows in the same way. So that was a high-level look. So the first step is telling Puppet what you want done by using a simple but pretty powerful declarative language to define your end state. So here we're taking Puppet code and structuring it into what we call the resource. And in this case, our resource is a service, but it could also be a package, a file, or a user. And if you didn't want to do that, we also have thousands of pre-built modules up on our Forge, which I'll show you a little bit later. So now once you have your definitions and your modules, the next step is simulating exactly what would happen if those modules or code was applied, but not to actually do anything. Puppet's kind of unique in this case by allowing you to see all the actions or all the changes that would be applied. So this would be the time that you would troubleshoot your modules, make the changes necessary, just basically make sure it's doing what you want it to do. And also, customers that have like rigorous change control policies, they'll run in this no-op mode by default. And then only during change control windows, take it out of this mode. So once you're sure that your code and your modules are doing exactly what you want, then the next step is running it in enforce mode. And this is the time that Puppet will actually apply those changes that you defined in the first step, and as well as remediate any configuration drift that might have happened. Puppet uses a concept called idempotence. It's kind of a fancy word that sounds too close to impotence. But it basically just means that Puppet can run over and over again without causing any issues. So if you had you told Puppet to do 5 things, and one of those things was install a package, Puppet would know whether or not that package was already installed, and it wouldn't reattempt that. So most of the time, if your systems are all set, a lot of times Puppet won't do anything, so it's not consuming or wasting any computing resources, and so on. So now the results of all of those Puppet runs are fed back into our web console and provided in report form, so that you can see not only all the details of your current configuration, but also the changes as well. And it helps you troubleshoot and make sure your configuration looks the way you want it to be, without having to sift through thousands of different log files. So during my demo, these are some of the things that I'm hoping to be able to show you. It's it's a few of the things that most customers ask me about initially. The first is just automating all of the manual tasks that you're performing today, like provisioning servers, applications, databases, also things like removing users when they leave a company, as well as enforcing corporate security standards or industry standards like PCI, FDA, and so on. The next thing is locating and correcting configuration issues. Not only locating and correcting the configuration issues that you know about, but also identifying and potential issues. And then I forgot to update the slide, but I'm also going to show you how to safely delegate the management of Puppet to other users within your organization as well. And then lastly, Puppet provides reports and an audit trail that you can hand to your auditors to show that all these things are in compliance. Okay, so now I'm going to start going into the demo and showing you how we can quickly accomplish some of these things. So I'm logging into the Enterprise console as a local user on the console, but you can also integrate Puppet with Active Directory or LDAP to import those users and groups. So here, the main page of the Enterprise console shows you the status of all the nodes that you're managing with Puppet and the status of their last Puppet agent runs. So on the right-hand side here, you'll see a quick day-by-day snapshot of what your Puppet runs have looked like. They're all color-coded as well, so blue means changed, green means unchanged, orange means no opt, and red means failed. And we use all of these same colors throughout the console. And then on the left-hand side shows a quick status of all your Puppet agents and the last time they checked in. What? Is that any better?
I think rather than optimizing for Retina, optimize for
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
And then just probably zoom out.
Zoom out.
Uh,
Zoom out.
Okay, well, so let's go in. Just imagine your web traffic has increased unexpectedly, and you need to provision a bunch of servers to meet that demand. This is how you would quickly do that. I'm going to start provisioning some new application servers by going into the classification tab. This is Puppet's Enterprise's node classifier. This allows you to organize your nodes into logical groups, so you can create groups for different functions or roles, even different departments or locations. And then it allows you to manage that group, that whole group, and assign classes or modules to the entire group. So now I'm going to create a new node group. I'm going to provision a new web server and maybe some Jenkins code on top of that web server. So this node group, I'll just call it Jenkins servers. I'll make it a subgroup of my Linux servers. And then this is, these are the environments that Chris and other people were talking about previously. They're basically just isolated groups of agents or nodes. And then if you were hosting your Puppet code or manifest up on a versioning control like Git or SVN, Puppet's code manager would automatically pull down that code and deploy it to the proper environments. So R10K, our code manager, is pretty cool. If you're using that, and you're creating different branches like development or test or production, each new branch you create, it'll automatically create that environment and apply that code within Puppet. So I'm going to add this group. And now I'm going to start assigning nodes to this node group. And I'll start off by setting up rules to match specific nodes that I know I want to automatically be included in this group. So if these are all the different facts that you can use to set up your rules. It's kind of like an iTunes smart playlist that includes regex. And add the rule. You can also pin specific nodes to this group as well. So if there are some nodes that you want to test some code on that don't match these specific rules, you can pin them directly to this node group. Once you do that, Puppet will show you all of the nodes, existing nodes in your environment that matches this rule. Also, if you're provisioning new servers, that don't even exist yet, and they happen to match these rules when they boot up, they'll automatically be included in this group and have all of that, all those modules applied to them. So to add Jenkins to this node group, I'm just going to type a Jenkins profile, add that class, and then these are the parameters that the module exposes to you. So, if you're writing your own code, you can include parameters in there that you might want the end users to be able to change dynamically or on the fly. So, for example, I can make sure that a certain package is installed as well. I can specify the version. You can do other things, on other modules, like specify the document root and so on. We're just going to leave that at the default. I'll commit the change. And that's pretty much all I had to do to provision that server with Jenkins and Tomcat on it. So now, anytime within the next 30 minutes, that agent would check into the master and apply that code. But instead of waiting, I'm just going to kick off the Puppet agent run manually. So now the agent is contacting the server. The server is compiling the catalog, and then it's sending it back to the agent. The agent's looking at the catalog and comparing the desired end state with its current state, and then rectifying all the differences between the two. So here you can see, the raw log output. It's doing a bunch of things, changing the firewall. It's going to install some packages, configure, and so on. So now, I think it should be done before too long. So now it's complete. Now I'm going to go back, if I go back to my web browser and bring up that web server, and here you see Apache Tomcat was installed, and I also installed Jenkins, so come on. Oh, there it goes. I'm doing all of this in VirtualBox, so here you go. You have like a semi-complete web stack. So now let me go back to the console and show you what that particular agent run looks like. I'm going to go back and take a look at all of the. I'm going to click on this node that I just ran the agent on. And these reports will show you exactly what happened on that particular run. So here I can see some detailed metrics like what groups this particular node belongs to, which classes are assigned to this node. So if I have any questions on why a node is configured in a certain way, I can look on here and see that it's got Jenkins on it because it's assigned the Jenkins classes to it. Here you'll see the daily run statuses as well. And then these are all the different facts that Factor sent back to the Puppet Master. You see everything from the operating system, the architecture, the IP addresses, as well as other networking or storage information. And again, all of this information can be customized and extended to include your department or location. It can also be, you can also use like a dynamic template, like either a file or a script to populate this information. And once you do that, this is all the information, these facts, are the facts that you can use within your modules and your code, and as well as within those rules that I showed you earlier. So now I'll click on this Puppet run. So here are some more detailed metrics. You can see here, you can see how many resources were changed, how many were unchanged because they were probably in compliance already. You also can see how long each part of the Puppet run took. So if you have a Puppet run that's taking a really long time and you want to try to figure out exactly why that was. You can look here. My particular Puppet run, the longest amount of time was because of config retrieval. Now if I click on log, this is the raw output. This is the same output that we saw by running the Puppet agent at the command line. So instead of having to go to the Puppet agent, you have all this information in a central location on the Puppet console. And then if you look on events, you can see a resource by resource breakdown of what resources have been changed. And also, more importantly, you can see the exact location where that resource was originally defined. So this, the content of my NTP file was changed, and it changed because this config.pp file in my NTP module is what I called it, and it even gives you the line number. So now let's say instead of provisioning servers, I just pushed out a security patch to all the servers in my environment. And now I want to make sure that that patch was successfully pushed out. So instead of having to go, and look at all these node reports one by one, I'm going to use another enterprise feature called Event Inspector. So Event Inspector allows you to get a deeper look into the changes that are happening in your environment. It allows you to take a look about the changes that were made on a class basis, a node basis, or a resources basis. So if I wanted to see how many nodes that patch was successfully applied to, I'll click on with changes here. Crap, this is not. I'm trying to zoom out. This is not working. Okay, this looks a little better. No. Okay, anyways, I'll work with this. That's fine. So here you can see all the different classes on a class basis. And if I click on any one of these classes, like this Java class, for example, it will show me all of the, all of the nodes that was successfully applied. This was successfully applied to. Jesus. It will also show, which you probably can't see, but any nodes where there were failures or where it was skipped, or you ran the Puppet agent in a no-op mode. So now if I click on resources were changed, you'll see the exact resource. And you can do this, you can look on a node and a resource basis as well. So say now, my manager has started asking me to enforce some corporate security standards, specifically with OpenSSH and not allowing, direct root access for OpenSSH on any of my servers. I'll just write a quick OpenSSH module to specify that. Again, what everyone went through, I'll just repeat it again. If if any of this is too basic or repetitive, feel free to just stand up and storm out. I'll understand. It's fine. So you'll notice, Puppet code is in a pretty easy to read key value pair format. I'm not a developer, and even this was pretty easy for me to pick up. So here you see it's divided in 3 discrete sections. one for a file, one for a package, and one for a service. And unlike other automation systems, Puppet doesn't really care about the order. You kind of specify the order within the code itself. So the first section specifies that Puppet, we want Puppet to manage the SSHD config file. Second line says ensure that it's present. And the third line gives you the source of where that config file is located. That source could be a file. Again, it could be a template. It could be from Hira. You can pull it from a database and so on. But the important thing is that by having Puppet manage this file, Puppet is also, if you're making any changes to it, Puppet will automatically distribute that file to all of the different servers. It's stored on a single place. It'll automatically refresh that file if any changes are made to it. And more importantly, if someone else makes an unauthorized change to that configuration file without checking it into Puppet first, Puppet will automatically revert that change back to the desired state. And you could do things like, say for example, you only wanted Puppet to manage a single line within that config file. You can do that as well and let end users change the other parts of the configuration. The next section, the package section, is just making sure that the application for OpenSSH is installed. We're also ensuring that this is done before it tries to manage the SSH config file. Because of course the file wouldn't exist if the application wasn't installed yet. And then lastly, to notify the SSH service if this package is installed or upgraded so that it can restart itself. And then the last section just gives you remaining details about the service itself, saying that we want to make sure that it's running, make sure that it's enabled so that if the machine is rebooted, it's, it automatically starts up during reboots. And then the last section is just a subscribe meta parameter that says to the service to watch that SSHD config file, and if that file changes at all, restart the service so you pick up those changes. And so now if you want more examples of what you can do with Puppet, you should go to the Puppet Forge. Like Chris mentioned earlier, we have the largest automation community out there. There's over 3,000 modules. More are being added every single day. We have a couple of different designations for these modules. We got Puppet supported. They're basically Puppet, you can think of them as Puppet binaries, just distributed in a module format. They're written by Puppet employees, they're supported by Puppet. If you have any questions on how to use them or if they're not running correctly, you can open up a support ticket. So here we have, and then we have the Puppet Approved program, which are basically just best in breed modules written by the community, and that a lot of customers have had a lot of success using them, and so we're pretty confident in recommending them. But there's a bunch of different modules out there. There's one for Apache, MySQL, DISM, Tomcat, and so on. You'll notice, they're all written in that easy to read key value pair format. The Apache module, specifies you can do things like setting up a virtual host. You can specify what port you want Apache to run on, where the document root to be. This makes it easy because you can just do it all within Puppet without having to figure out where or which parameter in which configuration file or directory that, that this exists in and that you need to change. And so let me click on. Now that we have all these modules, a lot of customers are having trouble deciding on which module to use. What we've done, I think in the last year or so, is now we've also, for each module, we specified, we're showing how many times it's been downloaded, and then we're also allowing the community to add a rating to each of the modules as well, from 1 to 5. So you can use a combination of those two things to kind of decide, which module is right for you and which one to use. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, it's be pretty interactive. If you have any questions, Chris and Ryan are here to answer them.
In the example earlier in the UI, you were showing, in essence, adding a class to the node definition for that host. My understanding is that Puppet Labs Enterprise uses a database backend. How are you resolving the difference between a configuration change to the safety database and the actual configuration manifest on the actual Puppet Labs?
Chris?
Yeah, so from the open source world, you do have the ability to classify nodes in your site.pp or nodes.pp. You can attach an external node classifier in Puppet Enterprise. That's pretty much what we've done. We've attached on our console, and it's going to act as an external node classifier. But the configuration file, your site.pp, will still work. That says that you can use both, but you really shouldn't as a best practice. Because you'll end up with multiple sources of truth. It's especially the worst if you have two different teams putting two different things in two different spots. So you can still make use of the two, but probably as an organization, you'll want to decide which one is the better fit for you and go that direction.
So how are you doing that in source code? It's being overwritten in the UI, and it's being written.
It's actually not being overwritten. When the Puppet catalog gets compiled, it is going to read in site.pp, and anything in there gets put in the catalog. It's also going to question the console for what additional classes and parameters should be involved and put that in the catalog. So it's actually going to concatenate the two, and if there are conflicts, it's going to let you know. But it's changing the UI doesn't write your site.pp, and changing your site.pp doesn't update the database. Mutually exclusive.
So you guys have to manage to.
I would say don't even touch site.pp and
Yeah,
use the
that
UI.
was-
Use the UI. Yeah.
Yeah, if there are any conflicts, the console kind of lets you know right away, and it won't, it won't let the Puppet agent run until those conflicts are resolved. So now that you've been managing your entire computing environment with Puppet, you may have either hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of nodes that you're managing. So now might be a good time to start delegating some of those management tasks to other people. So with Puppet's role-based access control, you can assign permissions to individuals and groups and safely delegate some of those tasks to the right people.
Switch back to something a little more legible.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know why this thing is like switching back on its own. There it goes. Is that better? Okay. So, I'll quickly just touch on it. Again, you can integrate with external authentication like LDAP or Active Directory. So when you do that, Puppet will import these users and groups from those directories. And then you can start using those users and groups and assign them roles to limit those roles to have various permissions. which are pretty granular. So in this case here, since I just created that Jenkins node group, I'm going to create a Jenkins admins user role. That user role, I can add in the various users that I want to belong to this role. You can also add groups as well. And if this was connected to LDAP or Active Directory, you'll see all the different users and groups from there. And then on permissions, first I want to give that person console access. I can just give them read only or write as well. I'll add the permission. I'll make sure that they can administer that Jenkins node group, as well as any child groups that's a subgroup of that. Okay. Oops. So this allows you to be really granular with what you want to allow users to do within the Puppet Enterprise console, and it really allows you to delegate a lot of the management to other users and move towards a more self-service model within your organization. Okay. Any other questions? Kara says I can't leave for 7 minutes. Yes?
You mentioned when you had AD integration, did you say it imported from AD, or it just checks what AD wrote?
No, when a user logs in,
Right.
using AD or LDAP credentials, at that time it'll import that user.
What's the behavior when AD goes away for whatever reason, briefly or extended period of time?
I'm not sure. Because it's already imported in, does it still?
It is going to check back to your AD or LDAP for auth. It's not as if it's copying the password database. Yeah. So if that goes away, your auth's going to be broken. So use Puppet to configure AD correctly.
So hopefully I was able to give you that brief overview and show you some of these main benefits of using Puppet. And this is my contact information. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to send me an email. Thank you.